This is the oldest, one of the oldest buildings in downtown Knoxville. It was originally a hotel called the Lamar House. It was built in 1816. It was at one time Knoxville's finest hotel. It hosted receptions for Andrew Jackson in 1817 and other presidents. Rutherford B. Hayes stayed here in the 1870s. Houston was here, Sam Houston, lots of luminaries of American history spent time in the Lamar House in downtown Knoxville. It played a particular role. We're actually in what was the saloon of the old Lamar House. This is called the Lamar House Saloon. It was the place where, in the days before the Civil War, men would come and argue about the issues of the day. There were more than one gunfight that resulted it came out of conversations at the Lamar House. This was the site of at the time of the Civil War. Of course, this building was it was very useful to both sides. General Johnston of the Confederate Army spent some time here mapping out some of his plans for the Western campaigns in 1863. Later that year, when Knoxville was under Union control, it served as a sort of a hospital at the time when the city was being besieged by the Confederate Army, which had given it up and decided to recapture it if they could. But during the siege, a young Union commander named William Sanders was mortally wounded on the west side of town, was brought here to the Lamar House, and it was here that they were determined that he was going to die. He died up in the bridal suite upstairs, and his death was considered so by General Burnside to have such a deleterious effect on the morale of the troops at the time that they decided to hide his death from the Union troops defending Knoxville. Sanders was kept. His body was kept in the hotel until late at night, when they could bury him secretly after midnight, and they took him out of the hotel after midnight. And for some days afterwards, according to the news reports, he was officially recovering from wounds. Later on, years after the war, in 1871, and the Civil War lasted longer than 1865 in Knoxville. There was such a division. There was a gunfight outside between a former Confederate general and a former Union officer. Confederate General James Clanton from Alabama, was in town as a lawyer. He was working on a legal case and had an argument about the war outside on Gay Street. Had a gunfight more or less just a few yards from where we're sitting, and was brought in here and where he died. So this building has been the site of the death of two Civil War generals, one of whom was shot 6 years after the war. The Lamar House was a place where they had balls, they had masquerades, they had concerts. This was the most exciting place to come in Civil War era Knoxville for lots of reasons. Later on, a theater was built onto the back of it in 1909. The Bijou Theater is now the oldest theater in the Knoxville area. The Bijou Theater was built in 1909. It was a vaudeville theater mainly in its early days, and they had some of the first movies shown in the area too. But in the vaudeville days, they had everybody from the Marx Brothers to magicians like Blackstone to John Philip Sousa and his orchestra were here. Lots of people played here over the years. But it fell into disrepair. It was actually a pornographic movie house for a few years in the 1960s, but was restored with a great effort in the 1970s. It is now considered one of the finest theaters, not only in Knoxville, but on the East Coast, believe it or not. In the New York Times, the jazz critic for the Times came down for a festival here in 2010 and said that this was one of the best listening rooms in the entire nation.